seaman, and he loved his trade, and he'd like to show it off to everybody. There was a real family on these ships. You know, seamen were nice people, good-hearted people, and they loved their craft. They loved their job.
It's a big difference from standing up on a bridge to coming down 4 or 5 stories down to the floor plates of a ship, knowing that if a torpedo hit and he hit the engine room, you're never going to see the up deck. You were finished with engine.
In World War II, 250,000 men volunteered for the National Maritime Service. They worked as civilian seamen sailing cargo ships. They hauled troops, fuel, and materiel to fighting fronts around the world and kept open supply lines to America's allies. In the first 6 months of the war, their casualty rates were 3 times greater than any branch of the armed forces. They were ordinary citizens who volunteered for one of the nation's most dangerous jobs. This is the story of merchant seamen who sailed the ships that carried America to final victory. As a maritime nation, America performed at her peak during World War II. The efficiency of the merchant fleet resulted from a long seafaring tradition. Throughout her history, America depended on her ships for trade and security. During World War II, these ships became crucial to the nation's survival. Cargo ships were the link between war production on the home front and America's fighting forces overseas. Ships carried everything needed to conduct the war. Their holds were packed with bandages, ball bearings, ammunition, tires, tools, foodstuffs, books, and cigarettes. Tanks, tractors, even locomotives were secured on deck. The slow-moving tankers hauled the fuel, diesel oil, and gasoline. Laden with their valuable cargoes, these vessels were moving targets. One well-placed torpedo sent thousands of tons of cargo to the bottom of the sea. By 1941, Hitler's armies had marched across Europe, defeating one nation after the other. Britain and Russia were the only countries holding out, and both were under siege. They desperately needed supplies to withstand the German assault. America, meanwhile, remained neutral. But a few years before, President Roosevelt, fearing war was inevitable, had directed the construction of a modern merchant fleet. The U.S. Maritime Commission was created, initiating a massive shipbuilding program. In its 8 years of service, this commission ordered nearly 6,000 new vessels.
In April of 1941, 800,000 tons of Allied shipping were sunk. And President Roosevelt said that we must build a bridge of ships. We must build ships faster than the enemy can sink them if we're ever going to win this war.
2 months before Pearl Harbor, a starkly planed ship slipped down the launching site in Chesapeake Bay. This 5-hold cargo carrier was built with prefabricated parts. Soon, identical ships followed, all assembled to be expendable in war. These were Liberty ships. Simple to operate and reliable, the Liberties became a symbol of America's war effort.
They built 18 brand new shipyards just for Liberties and put 650,000 Americans, women, men, young people, old people, building these ships. They became the largest fleet of ships ever built in the history of the world in such a short period of time. The 2,751 were built over about a 4-year period.
The Liberties arrived just in time. On December 7th, 1941, the Japanese Air Force nearly destroyed America's naval fleet at Pearl Harbor. Within 4 days, the nation was at war on two fronts, with Japan on one side of the globe and Germany on the other. America's ships were her lifeline. A call went out across the nation. America needs volunteers to sail the merchant fleet. Maritime service training schools opened around the country to teach men between the ages of 18 and 30 the skills of seamanship. These recruits were trained to work as non-military civilian sailors aboard cargo ships. Men from farms and factory towns, many who had never seen the ocean, signed up. In a matter of weeks, they received a seaman's rating and were accepted on ships as qualified sailors of the United States Merchant Marine.
We come aboard a ship. In those days, you had 3 ABs on a watch and 2 ordinary seamen. So I go up on the wheel, and the guy tells me, you know, the course is, well, you're going across the North Atlantic, you know, you're steering probably 45, between 45 and 90 degrees. And the guy says, steer 40 foot, the hell I know what 45 degrees is. So I goes on the wheel, and the captain says, I don't know how to steer.
How do you make a seaman in 90 days? You don't. They come off a farm, and they went into a 90-day program that was run by the military, who taught them more military stuff about squads right and squads left and how to square your hat, Navy style, but they knew nothing about oiling an engine. They knew nothing about firing a boiler. They knew nothing about climbing a mast and making the booms secure for sea. They knew nothing about ship's work.
These young kids, 17, 18 years old, they don't know what the hell to do. Yet they were certified seamen, because the Warship Administration said a seaman. So you had to play with them and nurture them and love them and respect them and teach them all of these things. If you didn't, who the hell else was there to do the job?
It fell to the old-timers, the backbone of the industry, who kept these ships sailing, and the old ships sailing long before the war, all during the war as well, and actually did the training of the 200-some thousand that came aboard as brand new raw trainees. It's the old-timers that made seamen out of them.
The old-timers had sailed in another era, when seafaring was a way of life, chosen by men who had few options. In good times and bad, the seaman's life was one of hard work. His job was dangerous. He worked long hours for meager wages and lived in miserable, unhealthy conditions on board ship. Though the industry thrived, the seamen in the forecastle saw little improvements in their way of life. In the decade before the war, they had grown weary of accepting it.
It was a sad commentary on the life of a seaman. To be pulled out of his bunk at any time, made to go to work, do this, do that, and not be paid for it. It was nothing to have 40, 50, 60 men in a forecastle. Now, you could imagine 50, 60 men in a forecastle coughing all night long, sneezing, wheezing, banging things, getting up, going to the john, light going on, light going off. But somebody's sick all the time. And that meant that guys in the forecastle had TB, all kinds of different diseases.
By the 1930s, hard times were shared by everyone. The Great Depression brought unemployment and hunger. On the waterfront, men talked of social change. Others cried for strong unions. Their frustration culminated in a strike in 1934 that shut down all shipping on the Pacific coast. By the end of the decade, seamen finally began to see improvements in working conditions aboard their ships. When America went to war, the seasoned sailors were joined by young recruits. The Merchant Marine grew 4 times its pre-war size. Along with the unlicensed men, the cargo fleet needed officers. Training schools offered experienced seamen upgrading courses. After a period of study, They applied for licenses as mates or engineers. In 1941, a National Academy opened for the training of maritime officers.
Kings Point, the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy, is the only academy that sends its students to war as part of their training. And I went there as a cadet, and we were also called cadet midshipmen, the midshipmen being United States Naval Reserve.
Dependent solely on volunteers, the Maritime Service conducted national recruitment drives. Across the country, ships were being launched faster than men were being trained to sail them. Young men were subject to the draft. For those who felt reservations about armed services duty, signing up with a merchant marine fulfilled their obligation. The Maritime Service accepted some men the military rejected. These volunteers had minor physical disabilities, color blindness, asthma, heart murmurs. With disability deferments, these men could have remained ashore in safe jobs, yet few did. Sometimes recruits came forward from unexpected places. As business agent for the Marine Firemen, Bill Bailey sought volunteers for the black gangs. These men worked in the engine room, far below deck.
We had a habit, in the Firemen's Union especially, that of helping men get out of prison, that is, helping with their parole. We would get letters from guys in San Quentin or Folsom, and they would say, well, I can get out in 6 months earlier if you would grant me the privilege of okaying my parole and putting me aboard a ship so I could serve as a volunteer in the Merchant Marine. Most of all us being working stiffs and knowing what it is to be under the gun, so-called, you know. We'd say, okay, go sign this paper. So we'd get guys to come out and put them aboard ship, and they were great. They were good human beings.
You had every nationality in the world on these ships, and we got along. We never had any problems outside of personal problems, but not, you know, not racial, religion, or any other kind of problems. We didn't go through that. We knew our job, and we did our job. We all worked together. We all got along on the ship.
Unlike the armed services during the war, which remained racially segregated, many merchant ships were integrated. While some seamen's unions did not embrace this policy, others did.
We had a policy of no discrimination for race, creed, or color, national origin. And that was based upon our experience in the years gone by that the ship owners was playing one group against the other. When the white crew would go on strike, they would send a black crew. Or if a Filipino crew went on strike, they would send an Asian crew on the ship. And this has been going on, and the seamen been divided for years. The black seamen knew, and other minorities knew, that the fight between the races was over.
There was no chip on my shoulder. I didn't have a reason to have one. People accepted me, and I accepted them. Yours truly minded his own damn business, did his work, and honest to God, I didn't have any problems.
All we cared is that you did your work. That's what counted. That when it came time to relieve the men down in the engine room, you were down there to relieve us. And we didn't care if you was a gay or anybody else. That's stupid in the first place. And we didn't want no part of it. We had great respect for everybody for what they done.
As soon as these young recruits came aboard, the very first thing we had to do is disabuse them of their military training. You're going to put your crisp uniforms away. You're going to do some work on this ship, and the company doesn't care about your uniform, and they don't care about how you march or how military you are. And as long as you're doing your job and you're doing it because you believe in your country and you know this is going to help, you don't have to salute anyone.
This is a space that you had to prepare a hell of a lot of meals. And you can't without stepping on somebody's toes. So the people that are working here must be able to get along together. The other departments had to have someone to kick in the backside. And the cooks and stewards department were the only ones they could. Because if the black gang decided they wanted to kick somebody, well, the sailors were just as rough as they were, and you'd have a brawl. Sometimes you say, gee whiz, maybe I should go jump off of the back of the vessel because these son of a guns are just about to drive me. And then there'd be, you go out in the rear end of the vessel, and a couple of fellas are saying, hey, don't pay no attention to those clunks.
Russia in a steady stream of iron ships and iron men, light and medium armored destroyers by the trainload, going to reinforce the fighting Soviet army in that death struggle of men and machines on the Eastern Front. Outward bound, they're convoyed by warships, heading for the Arctic Circle. Over 2,000 miles of dangerous waters, traversing the icy route that leads to Russia. Off the bleak northern tip of Norway, as the Arctic night falls, lookouts spot Nazi bombers sneaking in to attack. Pom-poms, anti-aircraft guns blaze into action.
Russia urgently needed supplies to hold out against the German invasion. But delivering the cargo would exact an enormous cost in lives and ships. More seamen would die in the North Atlantic than in any other zone. The Murmansk run in the early years of the war was the deadliest course of all. East Coast seamen knew well the dangers of sailing in these waters.
Well, when you sign on a ship, you don't just look at the cargo and just say, well, that cargo is going to Portugal. I don't want to go there. You don't do that, especially in wartime. There's a degree of loyalty or dedication there. You just go on there, and if it's going to Russia, so what? You're going to Russia.
We had a Russian delegation come aboard just before we sailed and announced that we would get double wages upon arrival in Murmansk. Well, they didn't say anything about not getting there. So they hedged their bets a little bit on that.
The men on the ship, that had talked to other fellas that had made that trip, you know, and they said, boy, I tell you, there's a very slim chance of making it up there and back. And, you know, of course, we thought about it, you know.
Seamen Ransom, Harvey, and Versey had signed on an old freighter named the Hanamu. The ship, bringing ammunition and materiel to Murmansk, joined convoy PQ-17. 33 merchant ships left Iceland under heavy protective escort. Within a few days, German torpedo bombers attacked. The convoy pushed on. On board, the seamen were now apprehensive, but none could have predicted what lay ahead. Their captains had received a startling command: break convoy and scatter. The British, who directed the operation, were withdrawing all protection. The merchant ships were on their own, abandoned in enemy waters.
I asked why they were leaving, and they says one of their reconnaissance planes had spotted the German fleet heading in our direction, and they were about to annihilate us.
The captain called all the officers who were off watch into the mess room and said, we have an order to disperse the convoy. We kind of had a bit of resentment, particularly after the big buildup that we received about this magnificent escort that we had.
We still had hopes even after we got the order to scatter. We still had hopes, but I could tell on Captain Strand's face that he was, by looking at him, I didn't like to look at him because he knew we were doomed, and he was right.